Today we are making a festive holiday meatball. Call it a Christmas meatball. It's delicious. It has 2 types of meat. It has all the flavor you want, a really quick sauce. You can serve this on pasta. You can serve it as a main dish with your Christmas meal, or you can make it for a weeknight because it's that good. So let's go through the whole process so you can make these too. Today we're making what I'm gonna call Christmas meatballs, holiday meatballs, festive meatballs. They're just a really fun way to have something special around the holidays. You know, when it comes to Christmas, a lot of times we'll do a turkey, we'll do a ham. I like to also do other things, crown roast of pork. Some people like to do a rib roast or a standing rib roast. This is gonna be a meatball. And it's what I like is it can be made ahead and frozen and then baked later, but it also can be really simple to put together the day of. So much flavor, and who doesn't love a meatball? So remember, I live in Iowa, I live in the Midwest. Does that mean I know always the most authentic way to make a meatball? Probably not, but I know the way we make meatballs and what makes them delicious, so that's what we're gonna do today. And what it starts with is good meat. So in my bowl, I have some ground beef and some ground veal. Now, if you can't find ground veal, what I like about it is it's lighter in flavor. It actually is lighter overall. Add in ground pork instead. That's gonna, again, do a good offset. I can find ground veal in my local stores, and if I can in Iowa, I think most people can. So we're gonna start with those 2 meats, and then we're gonna add in now all of our other good things that really make a good meatball. And it's important to make sure you have all these ingredients. So we're gonna add in some breadcrumbs. You can use a panko crumb. You can see these are a toasted crumb. Anything that's just gonna help be dry, but also it's going to absorb some of the excess moisture and make sure they're very tender. Now with that, we're also gonna add a couple eggs. Now the eggs are gonna do a couple things. They're gonna hold it together, they're gonna give it body, and they're gonna really bind everything really well. So we're gonna put them right in here, and what I wanna do is make sure I beat them up slightly. And that's just because when you have all this meat, all this mixture, it just helps to make sure you kind of give them a slight beating beforehand so they really work in evenly with all those other ingredients. And once those are done, you just pour them right in. And this is what I love about meatballs. It's all pretty much one and done. Now we are gonna make a quick sauce then too, but really for this portion, it's pretty quick. We're gonna put some ricotta cheese. Now, you can buy ricotta anywhere, but if you're from the Midwest, you know what you can use as, or anywhere, you know what you can use instead of, or what we would have used growing up a lot of times? Cottage cheese blended up. We always had cottage cheese in the fridge, so a lot of times mom would use that in lasagna and things like that. It has that nice offset tanginess, and it will work in the same application. A little sacrilegious for some, but it does work. So now I wanna add in our flavorings. Now I am taking an onion, a half of one, and I'm grating it on a cheese grater. You can do this on a box grater, you can do this on, you know, any type of grater. But what this is doing is making it really, see how fine it is coming out? That's super important, because that's just gonna melt into these meatballs. And that's what I want. I don't want big pieces of uncooked onion in that. No, I want these nice little pieces that are finely grated, and they're just gonna go in perfectly and then melt in your mouth, but also release all that flavor. And that's what we want here. We're gonna take some garlic clove. Now, usually it's a couple. I grow my own garlic, and I happen to grow monstrous sized garlic. So we're gonna use 1 clove. And I don't even know if it's gonna fit in this press, but I'm gonna force it to, because I really just don't feel like mincing it on my own. So we're gonna pop it through. There, it all comes out, look at that. Now, if you have smaller cloves, obviously use 2, but it kind of has to be what you see your size cloves are gonna be. That's just how it has to be. Then we're gonna add in some, of course, grated parm. Now, I just grated it, you can see, and I got down to the end, that little rind part. Don't throw this rind out. This is gold. Put this in your stews, in your soups. It exudes the flavor. It's so good. You never wanna throw that out. So we're gonna put in a good hefty dose of that. How good these look. And they're simple, they're festive on their own. A little bit of Italian seasoning. I control the Italian seasoning I'm in. So I don't put in sausage, because it can be different each time, but the Italian seasoning is a nice blend that always just works well in it. We're gonna put in some black pepper, freshly cracked, and then a good dose of salt, because there's a lot of meat and you need a lot of salt. Now the best way to do this is with your 2 best tools. Clean your hands and then get in there. And you really wanna make sure, since these are so many components, you need to mix this stuff really well. And yes, it's messy, but you know what? We need to know our food. We need to get in there, and we need to know what kind of food we're working with. And the reason I like to do my hands here, you can do a spoon, you can wear gloves, is you wanna make sure both kinds of meat are really well combined, but also you don't want any pockets of these ingredients kind of just nestled in there, because you will hit them in a meatball. You want that meatball to be well combined, because right now you can see, you're still seeing different kinds of meat, you're seeing different pockets of things, so we need to just make sure we have it all well mixed, before we portion them out. You can see I had this well mixed. It's really important to have it well mixed. And now what we're gonna do is talk about portioning them off. Now, since this is for when I'm maybe having people over, I wanna just make sure they're a little bit more precise. So I am gonna weigh them. I have a plate on here so it doesn't get my actual scale dirty. And then I have it set, and what I'm gonna do is just take all this. I have it at 0 right now. You can put something on it and tare it, it's called, which is bring it back to 0. I'm gonna weigh my total mixture, and it's in ounces. I always think actually, if you can go to grams, it'll be even more precise. And I can divide this total by the amount of meatballs I want. Now, you can do more meatballs if you want, but I want a nice big meatball. So we're gonna do this into 8 meatballs. So I'm gonna take them from here, and now I can go each one, it's back to 0, and I can know for each one what I want and what we need to do. So I need each one of mine to be, you can visually do it too, but 191 grams, which roughly yours should be around the same. It could vary a little bit, but we're gonna kind of look, and that's way too much. It's always, you know, every time I think I can just do it visually and like I'm gonna be so good at this, I'm not. Oh, we're getting closer now though. It's always a process, and you know what? After a few, you're gonna be like, oh, I can do this really, really well. I can guess. I'm just almost perfect. There it is, exactly what we want. I'll form them into better balls here in a minute, but I'm gonna first make all the ones I want, and then we're gonna talk about how we're gonna brown them. I don't want the messy oil on the stove, so we're gonna do it in the oven. You can see I am taking a little bit of time to make sure I form these nicely. This is a good final check. Is everything mixed well? And then you can just be like, you wanna take the time, because this is your final thing for the presentation, if you will. So if you just form them in your hand, just kind of like a dough ball, if you would. You can see I'm just going all around and then making sure to pat them out into a nice even. So if there's any spot that isn't, you can kind of just rub it around, make sure it's smooth. That way when we actually go to brown them in the oven and then go to final kind of sauce them, they'll look good. So I'm gonna finish up here and then we'll start roasting them. I just washed my hands because I was working with raw meat, obviously. You always wanna make sure you practice safe kitchen practices because you want safe meat to eat and you want clean hands. So, olive oil. This is gonna be our key. We're gonna put this in the oven. So I'm gonna douse these in olive oil because I want some of that browning, roasting effect. Now, traditionally, you could have some nice oil going on the stove. You could brown them in the oil. It can be good. It can also make a mess and sometimes misshape them. So I like to do it at high heat in the oven. So I'm gonna put these in at high heat, turn it down, let them roast through until they're cooked. If you need to, you can even broil them for a little bit to get that browning. While that's going, then we're gonna make a quick sauce so we can nestle them right in there. We're good to go. So while those are roasting and then cooking all the way through, we're gonna get ready our sauce, which is really simple. I'm gonna do a really quick stovetop sauce. So I have some grated onion again. It just melts into it, I like that. And now I'm taking some garlic, and I'm using a small mandolin. You can use a little truffle shaver too. I saw someone do that once, and I've never had truffles in my house, but I have had the shavers, but it's nice because it gets it so nice and thin. So in this case, I like the texture of this really thin garlic, and I'm gonna cook it with the onion, which is a deviation for me. I don't always do that, but I like it to cook a little bit deeper in the sense, take on a little bit more of those bitter, darker flavors. So I have the olive oil over here. It's getting nice and warm, and it's exactly what we want. And you can just see it starting to want to ripple a little bit, and I'm starting to smell it, which means that it's time for me to grab all this onion and the garlic, and we're gonna put it right in. And what I like now at this point, you're just getting this low simmer right here. Do you hear that little bit of sizzle? We're gonna let this just cook slowly, let that onion kind of melt out, get translucent before we add the rest of the ingredients, and then just let them cook away. You can see this is cooked for a little bit, and it's just beginning to want to get some color. So now is when I want to put it all together so everything can just simmer. So we're gonna start with a little bit of red pepper flake. Of course, if you're adverse to spice, you can leave that out. I did salt the onion and garlic then a little bit, but I want to do it just a little bit more because you really need to counteract and bring out the flavor of those tomatoes. A little bit of black pepper, just a little bit of that fresh crack to really just add some oomph. And then it's kind of everything else. So we're gonna put in some basil. Now, I've had this sitting in the fridge for a few days. Sometimes it goes limp. We're not chopping up to put in here. We're putting it in and we're taking it out. It's just gonna add the flavor while it's simmering. And then we're gonna take it all out of there. So I've crushed tomatoes. I'm gonna add those right in here. They, to me, just have a great consistency. I know some people like whole tomatoes. You can do that. I like when they're crushed already. I'm gonna put them in, gonna let this come to a simmer. You can see it's just enough to kind of kiss all those meatballs when we add them. And we're almost done. The sauce has been simmering. It's just enough. And these you can tell, I put the broiler on for just a little bit too, but they're like almost done. We're about 20 degrees away from their internal temperature needing to be done. Ground meat needs to be at 160 degrees. And you can see here how this sauce is just beautiful. Now, I just want to show you, this is not part of the recipe, but if you have a rind like I did, this is a great time to use it. Throw it in your sauce that you're simmering, just hide it in there. It's gonna just exude this beautiful, nutty Parmesan flavor without actual cheese in it. I'm just saying, don't throw them away. They're really good. What we're gonna do though now is we're gonna put these right within here. Now you see I still have that basil in there. I'm gonna leave it until the end. What I'm doing though is nestling these meatballs right in, and look how beautiful they are. They're big, they're celebratory. They're all the things you kind of want at Christmas, and I'm moving this basil so I can then take it out easily at the end. But you can see, I mean, just look at them. And what I wanna do before I add that last one, I have a spoon here. I'm gonna take some of the sauce as we're going. Just gonna kind of start putting it over them a little bit, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna put these now back in the oven with the sauce, and we're going to just let them simmer. And we're gonna let them cook in the oven and finish roasting. They got somewhat browned, a little bit of crust on them, which I wanted. And now they're gonna go back in, and they're just going to finish and kind of just marry with the sauce. I think it's a great thing if you're having a few people over, maybe during those dark days of winter. Maybe the Christmas tree is on over on one side, and you just wanna enjoy something special. Meatballs are special. I think we need to elevate the everyday sometimes, things that don't seem. Ground meat, it can be special when you put some of these things into it. That last one is in, the sauce is all around. We're gonna finish them off now. Again, don't guess, check the temperature. We don't need to have anyone sick over the holidays. But soon we're gonna enjoy these, and you're excited, right? So after just a few more minutes in the oven, they get done. They are beautiful. They are table ready. They're beautiful. I think they're just like a fun presentation. Now I think, yeah, I have a massive piece of parm right now. Honestly, by the way, if you want a gift for anyone that loves to be in the kitchen, a good piece of Parmesan cheese is the way to go. I always think though, let's just put on a little bit of fresh cheese here at the end. It just dresses it up. You could tear some fresh basil on it. Now, you can serve this with pasta if you want. That would definitely make, you know, more traditionalists happy. I serve it more as a main meat, and then I'm gonna have maybe a beautiful potato with it of some type or something like that. Do whatever works for your family. I think that's the point, is you have to find what works for your family and what they're gonna want. So at this point, you can just pick one of them and you can go for it. I mean, that's the beauty of this. We're gonna put it right here. Yes, I'm using a Christmas plate because 'tis the season, you guys. And we're gonna just go ahead and chop it up in half so you can see that beautiful texture all the way through. Now remember, we made sure that this was completely done. So I took the temperature, I made sure it was done before I did anything. I am using a knife. Usually I wouldn't because they're so tender, but I had one here to chop it in half. Okay. I think you'd be surprised how tender they are. And that is the ricotta. That's the breadcrumb. It's the cheese we added. I need to be done. But what I love, we have a nice sharp sauce with them. That's that really quick sauce we made. It took no time. It's really simple. And then you have all the flavors in there that we put some Italian seasoning. We put all that Parmesan, adds a lot of flavor too. And they're just a very beautiful kind of melt in your mouth meatball. Now, we did have that basil that was in the sauce, and then I removed it. It gave its essence to the sauce, much like that Parmesan rind, which honestly, you guys, oh, there it is. You can just remove that at the end too. It becomes melty and all that cheese comes off of it, but it does its work too. So this is all in all a beautiful festive way to have something special made for the holidays. Maybe it's just gonna be an everyday thing. You can cut these in half, even make them smaller, serve them on top of pasta if you want to, or like I'm going to with a really good potato. You still have that sauce that will work really well with everything else, some nice crusty bread to really pick it up. It's a beautiful dish. It's something delicious for the holidays, and it might change it up. So as always, I hope this inspires you. I hope you share this video around because that helps me, but it helps everyone else see if I can make something, you can make it too. This is doable in anyone's home. You can check my website, wyseguide.com, for this recipe and all my others. It's Holiday Central on there. All the recipes you're gonna need. Merry Christmas.